Working memory is sort of synonymous with short-term memory, but you could argue it's a bit of a subdivision also, and a rather recently coined term dating to the early 70s by Alan Badley and a few other prominent researchers. I'll look at one of their articles, and forgive me, I'm going to touch on a few paragraphs here. Studies this in detail. As always, participants saw a sentence describing the order of appearance of two letters. For example, A is preceded by B, together with those letters, the B preceding the A. And the question was, does the sentence describe the two letters correctly? And in this case, it clearly does, that B precedes A. Participants were given from 1 to 6 digits to hold in memory while they verified the sentences. And the results showed that participants were able to verify the sentences while holding 1 or 2 digits in memory, but by the time you got up to 6 or so, it tended to impede performance. So it took longer to verify the sentence, that it was correctly stated that B precedes A. So the effect was really pronounced if the sentences were negative or passive or somehow more complicated. So although performance was hurt by storing 6 digits, they were not catastrophic. And researchers think that short-term memory has a capacity of about 7 items, plus or minus 2. The 6-digit memory should have essentially stopped any other activity, but it didn't. So Baddeley and Hitch argued for the existence of what they call working memory. And the idea is it's a limited capacity storage system that underpins some thought and arguably general cognitive strength. So we have a few aspects of working memory that we'll focus on. On the right there, the phonological loop. The idea is that we bandy things in our mind and actually sound them out, even if we're not reading aloud. So in that case, things along the lines of reading the letters C, G, V, T, D, or X, K, R, W, A. Even though I'm not saying them out loud, it will be the case that they're reverberating of sorts in my inner ear. That's a phonological loop. The central executive. Can we switch tasks efficiently? Can I switch from one thing to evaluating another thing according to essentially will? Frontal lobe process. That's said to be more powerful for people that have that natural gift. And a visual spatial sketch pad is the idea that you can retrace your steps in a new shopping mall. I'll never forget in 2015 when I first moved to the area, I visited the North Park 50 Mall in Dallas. And for those of you from that area, that's got to be the largest shopping mall I've ever been in. And retracing one's steps is rather complicated. It's 2 floors and sort of a figure 8 plus another loop. And wow, it's quite involved. A very beautiful place. But I had to maintain my steps in order to get back to my car that was usually parked at Nordstrom's or something. So that's the visual spatial sketchpad. So notice that proposing the existence of a separate loop explains why having a person remember digits, like those 2 to 6 digits, does not totally devastate performance on another task such as verifying a sentence. We can hold those things separately in working memory. So researchers have devised many tasks, and many of these are old. Here's another one that's 44 years old. A very well-known one by Donovan and Carpenter works like this. A person is given a set of sentences to read, and at the same time is asked to remember the last word in each sentence for later recall. And here they are, some sort of clunky sentences. The leaves on the trees turn various hues in autumn, and of course the last word would be autumn. And now after reading these sentences aloud, the participant is cued to recall the last word. In the example, the correct answers are autumn, delicatessen, and necessary. The number of sentences a participant can process and reliably recall words from, that they can reliably recall words from, is said to be a measure of their span, their working memory span. And this measure has been shown to correlate significantly with other cognitive measures such as reading comprehension and complex cognitive tasks. Just parenthetically, that visual spatial sketchpad, when I'm about to refer to that again, is to visual material as the phonological loop is to auditory or verbal things. It maintains and is involved in the manipulation of visual information and imagery. So if I'm retracing my steps in that absolutely gigantic shopping mall in Dallas, that would be required for me to get back to my car on a busy shopping day this coming December 2024. And we'll take up that topic in Chapter 9. We'll speak of visual imagery. So, and finally, here's the episodic buffer. I want to allude to that again. Baddeley revised this in 2000. And here it is, the episodic buffer. It's a recent component. It's thought to be another temporary storage system, but one that interacts with both the loop and the visual spatial sketchpad, as well as with long-term memory. It's controlled by the central executive and is used to integrate information across different modalities and to facilitate the transfer of information into and from long-term memory. So I'm going to revisit this here in a few minutes. This section is rather long, but I want to touch on some other aspects of working memory here in the next section.